Yo, what's good? Welcome to WinCity Sports on WePodcast, Windsor's only local sport podcast with your host, as always, Drake Demore. This is episode 4 on the WePodcast network and episode 74 on CJAM. If you heard our interview earlier this week, now you'll be able to see the whole thing totally uncut and unedited. This week we have Windsor Lancers hockey team's own Nate Veras. We talk all about his career in hockey, playing for the LaSalle Vipers and, of course, the Windsor Lancers. Talk about his future in hockey and the possibility of it relating to his full-time career. We also talk about the EPICentre at the University of Windsor and much, much more. Now, before we get to that interview, we have to take a quick moment to do what we always do here on WinCity Sports and talk about our Windsor Lancers Athletes of the Week. This week from the men's volleyball team, it's John Mote, and from the women's hockey team, Molly Jenkins. John had a huge weekend for the Lancers as they swept a pair of games against the RMC Paladins and Queen's University. In Friday's 3-1 win over RMC, John had 20 points on only 19 hitting attempts. In Saturday's game, John went 8-13 with 5 stuffed blocks. Molly was solid between the pipes for the women's hockey team this weekend. In Friday's game against Western, Molly made 35 saves and followed that up with a standout performance on Saturday against the Laurier Golden Hawks. Jenkins backstopped the Lancers to a 4-0 win over the Laurier Golden Hawks, making 32 saves to earn her first shutout of the season. When did you start playing hockey, and is it something that you always wanted to do, or were you kind of thrown into it as a kid, like a lot of kids?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's a little bit of both because I was surrounded by it growing up. My dad, I'd always watch. I'd have my Leafs jersey on, watching the game with him ever since I can remember, even before I can remember. Seeing pictures. Yeah. But no, I definitely had a passion for it, and it's something that I wanted to do. My mom tells stories of me hopping on and off the couch at home, saying, like, pretending I'm getting on and off the bench. Like, every chance I could, I was wanting to like mimic it and see what it'd be like to actually lace them up.
Yeah, like wearing the helmets and sticks and gloves. Exactly. Same thing with me.
Sticks and everything.
That's the same thing with me. Like, obviously, I didn't get into hockey like playing much. Like I did. Obviously, I played house league and stuff, but I didn't get into it too deep. But that's the same thing. It was like my dad was a Leafs fan, and all I remember is watching hockey with him, and he was like, "You want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to play." Yeah. And then sometimes it hit me. I was like, "This is kind of tough," but it was so fun, and that's what drives your passion too, right?
Exactly.
So where did you play?
So growing up, started with Timbits, of course, like just house league. But from there, Select 7 all the way up. I played Riverside Rangers for a few years. So I'm from East Windsor, Riverside area, born and raised. Played Riverside for a little bit, and then moved to AAA, Windsor AAA. Okay. Played about 5 or 6 years there, and then in my 17-year-old year, I was fortunate enough to make the LaSalle Vipers.
Awesome. Played
Junior B there for 4 years, 4 great years.
Yeah.
And then this is my second year now with the University of Windsor.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the Vipers too, but just to touch upon, like you're saying, like you're an East End guy. Not that like the minor leagues here are like specific to locations, but you're kind of in the middle there where you can go to Riverside, you can go to Windsor,
right.
And you probably had good connections between the two, right?
Yeah, definitely. So growing up from Riverside, I had a lot of friends over there, and then I was doing really good and thought that I could step it up a level and play a little bit more competitive, take on a little more commitment, and made the choice to go to Windsor when I could, and it was great to me. Windsor was great to me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That AAA system that they have there has always been pretty stellar from what I've been able to tell. And a lot of guys have moved forward from there, which, it says it all. But let's talk about, like you said, you had 4 great years on LaSalle Vipers. Did you just try out, or how did you make it there?
Pretty interesting story of how I actually made it. So I was doing my best, wanted to play at the highest level I could coming out of midget minor. I didn't get drafted, unfortunately, but didn't let that stop me from working as hard as I could and playing as high as I could. So I was trying out for every junior B team and every junior C team in the area. And at the time, it was looking like I'd be playing junior C with Lakeshore Canadians, now Lakeshore Canadians, the Bell River then. And so I was going to be really happy with that, but I was still trying out with the Leamington Flyers. I had been cut from LaSalle.
Really?
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I played an exhibition game for Leamington against LaSalle, and then they must have saw me, and whatever happened, they said, we want you back, come play an exhibition game for us. Played for LaSalle against Chatham, and after that game, ended up signing with them. And that's exactly, maybe not exactly how I wanted it to go, but that's the result I wanted.
Sometimes it's never what you want, right? And like you said, you want to be drafted.
Right.
For those that don't know, when you're coming out of midget around like 15, 16, you get drafted if you are to the CHL, OHL around here, right? And that's the thing that now, if that doesn't happen, it's a different path. You got to start trying out for teams, like Nate was saying, and all the minor junior leagues here. I'm just starting to realize how high level that they are. I always knew Junior B was, but it's funny that you mentioned Lakeshore Canadians because I work out there part-time at that arena last year. That's the first time I've ever seen Junior C hockey. Yeah. And I'm able to actually see what they're capable of. And it's really cool to see when the crowds come in and when there's like, playoffs are awesome. Yeah, there. It is. The playoffs are great. Last year we had the arena packed against Essex. And they were good. But yeah, just tell me about your time on LaSalle Vipers. I think you grew to be captain there, did you not?
Yeah. In my last year, I was captain of the team. So, how would I say? My role changed so much over the course of those 4 years. Starting out, I was a first-year player, rookie, and just wanted to really earn my spot. Having made it the way that I did, I was kind of right on the edge, right on the borderline of on the team, not on the team. So I really wanted to fight and earn a spot on the team, which is what I had to do. Fortunately enough, like you say, Evan. So that was my first year I played with Evan Makarick, and he ended up, I think it was either an injury or suspension, but he was out for a few games, like a good number of games at the start of the season. So I had a chance to prove myself, and I just made sure I was really focused up and worked as hard as I could, and was able to earn a spot on the team, or earn a spot in the lineup. And that's something that maybe a lot of people who aren't too familiar with the hockey world might not be too familiar with, is that earning a spot, especially on junior teams and now university teams, can be really tough. And to have 7D but only 6 play every game, you want to make sure that you're consistently in the lineup to be developing as a player, right? Yeah. And fortunately for me, I was in, I think, every game that starting season. I had a really good defensive partner, Scotty Pryor, who I ended up playing with last year, and the Lancers too, which is great about the Lancers. I've actually had I got a few teammates on.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to talk about later. The team now is great. And stuff. That's awesome. That's why I like seeing that when people cross paths and then later on carry forward. And I like what you said about what people might not know in the hockey world, because I always say, like, when someone is named a captain in an NHL team, people, why would they say pick him? Or not? You don't know what's going on in the dressing room, right? And you'll never know. They might show you something, but you'll never know. So that
it's amazing the different dynamics that can be going on in each dressing room. Like this year, for example, we have Blake Blondeel, who's an incredible leader, and that guy leads by example. And the way he works hard and shows us all what to do, he's much more of a leader by example. And he says things when they need to be done, when they need to be said. But more or less, we look to him and we see what he's doing, and he leads the way in that way. And I think different teams call for different kinds of leaders.
Oh, for sure.
And so, it was my 4th year then that I was named captain. I didn't take it lightly. I took it as a big responsibility to be the best leader I could, to be not only leading the way, but, like I say, saying things when they need to be said and giving the guys the best example that they can look up to. Because one thing that I think is really underappreciated or not acknowledged so much is that on those junior hockey teams where the age group is 16 to 20 years, it's such a developmental time in your life, in anybody's life in that age. Yeah. And so you have guys, younger guys, myself, I know because I was in that position. I was 17 years old to make the team, looking up to these guys that have been here for 3 or 4 years and looking for an example. Somebody look up to, and somebody just ask questions. And a lot of the times it's hockey, but a lot of the times also it's how's your school going? How's your family? Like, there's so many things other than hockey that you have the opportunity to be a leader with, and I took that as a great opportunity and just did my best to be the best leader I could.
That, and it's like that in every sport too, where you might see a younger kid, right? A rookie when you're a senior, and be like, I already know what this kid's going through before you even talk to him. Exactly. And maybe then he opens up to you, and just a little thing can go a long way. That's what I've always learned in life, like we talk about with people. That's such a critical age, being in between that. But your 4th year, you probably would have been overager, right? or at least
Yeah,
your
the
last year
oldest
going
year that
in,
you can play
and
there.
you get named captain, so you knew that this was your last year and you got to go out with a bang. So that probably drove towards it too, right? Like, you want
Most
to be the best
definitely.
captain as possible because this is the only year I'm going to be
Yeah,
captain.
have the biggest impact that I could. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. All right, let's talk about the Lancers now. Just how did you end up moving from LaSalle to the Lancers? I know, obviously, like I said, it was your last year, but what was the recruitment process getting to the university?
So throughout my last year, and maybe even the year before that, I'm not sure, but I had been asked by my coach if that was my interest to play for the Lancers afterwards. I believe it was our coach now, Kevin Hamlin, that would have contacted my coach. So throughout the year, I was put in contact with Kevin Hamlin, made it known to him that he was interested in me and I was interested in him, and in playing for the Lancers. And from there, I was invited to the recruit weekend in the summer before my first Lancer season, where in July we get together for a skate, all the returning players and the future recruits or prospects, and we play for a weekend. We also go and see a Tigers game, so get to bond a bit, get to know the guys, but also it's also a tryout too, right? You're having to prove yourself and earn a spot.
That's a big part of it. Going back a little bit, like you said, earning a spot on the Lancer or on the LaSalle Vipers. It wasn't about just what you're doing on the ice. It was about the dressing room and what you're doing in the gym and outside of all those things too, and bonding with the boys, right?
Definitely. One thing that I really respect about Coach Hamlin is that he looks at, like you say, so much more than just on ice performance. He looks at the kind of character that guys have, and whether or not they're a leader, whether or not they can be somebody that he's happy to have representing their team and know will represent well.
Absolutely. That's one thing I seen. I forget where I seen it, like what sport it was, but they said, we can pick the best athlete out there, but if they have a bad attitude, personality, we're not going to take them. So that spoke to me so much, and I was able to use it with this throughout all sports, right? When we're talking about the recruiting process. And he's, I don't think he's a teacher, but he's in the school board, right?
Yeah, he's actually a principal.
He's principal, that's right.
Yeah.
So he sees the personalities, the different personalities day to day, and he's probably seen kids go from a bad personality but work through sport to a better one, right?
Yeah,
so
without a doubt.
he knows who he can take on and who's coachable and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and if they're gonna see you and say, this is the guy that we want, then that's awesome, right? It's just like, again, going back to the Vipers, when they're like, we must have made a mistake by cutting this guy, we need him back. That's cool, man. So how long have you been with the team now? You said second year?
Second year.
Yeah, and you grew to, you're the assistant captain now, right?
So basically, more or less stand-in assistant captain.
Okay.
We had, with injuries, one of our assistant captains, Justice Dundas, he's been out for about a month now and might even be another month or so with a big injury. And then our captain, Blake Blondeel, he was out for a few weeks for us at least. And so, at least at the time, we were lacking a bit of leadership in the room. So I think the coaches felt that they wanted to do what they can to get somebody to step up, and so me and Chris Scott, we were wearing temporary A's on our chest, which is great to see a nice little sign of that. I mean,
it's kind of like again, going back with Evan, like when he had an injury or whatever happened to him, that you had to kind of excel, which it can be an unfortunate thing because you don't want to see your teammates in a bad spot, right?
Definitely but at the same time, I mean, if I was out and then if I was Scott, you want
about the team,
the best to be done for the situation.
Yeah, it's not like a selfish thing. It's more for the team of like, we need a leader, so I'll be that leader, even if it's just for now.
Definitely.
That's cool. So yeah, just how are you feeling about the team in general this year? You like clicking with all the guys and working together, having fun, or what?
Yeah, this has been a great year, and I think an improvement from last year. Like I said, Coach Hamlin, I think he's a good judge of character, and this year really shows it. The guys that he brought in, we got a lot of new recruits.
Yes.
I think we have something like 14 new players, which is unheard of, or maybe not unheard of, but it's rare. It's a lot of new guys having to come in, and what's great about it though is that they're character guys. They're really good guys, and that added with the returning players, who I could say the same thing for. We've got a great feel in the room this year.
That's awesome.
And it's funny I jumped to that first, but I mean,
well, it's almost more important in a way, right?
It's a key component.
Building a team, right? It's not always like on the ice. It's more about the guys, like
without a doubt, how they mesh, how they're going to be able to come together when it's the playoffs, and their skill gets you so far, and then it comes time to see what we're really made of and who's going to step up, who can lift each other up when those times are tough. But So aside from the strong character, we've actually got so much talent on the team.
Yeah.
So much talent, and we've got a lot of skilled guys. I was really impressed in our recruit weekend, seeing how competitive it was, and just how good a hockey it was. I was really pleasantly surprised to see how much skill we had there, and how we were playing.
Was there anything specific that stood out, or is it just like you said, you got on the ice, it was like, wow, I just...
No, it was skill, but what I really like to see, and what I'm seeing lots of too, is guys that have guys that can battle, like guys that they get the puck and immediately they're on their boots and they're as fast as they can, and they're just hard workers, which I think makes a massive difference, and especially on a team like ours, who that's our style, that's our identity, is a hard-working team, hard-working, out-battle and outwork. That's how we win games. Just the way it is in our place in the league, compared to other teams, we're not the most skilled team. There's a lot of other teams that have much more on paper talent, because they're able to pick from a lot of players in the QM, JHL, in the OHL, and a lot of these leagues where they're able to draw from. But our bread and butter is outworking and outwilling the other team.
Yeah. And just kind of go back, we were talking about the level of junior hockey. I'm starting to see the level of OUA sports in general, not just hockey, but all of them are such high level. And just some great, like you're saying, they're just great athletes that may have come from somewhere else that didn't go to where they wanted to be, and that's where they are now. And it's really a great level. And we're talking about like the Quebec leagues and stuff. When you're out there and recruiting from like that's a strong system too, and in the Western Division too. So that's a good point. I didn't realize, coming from here, it's basically just like an OHL recruitment. Yeah. And having the strong players, like head-wise, that really makes a big difference. You can see just based off what you said.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. In my last year of LaSalle is when I started to think, like, what are my future plans going to be? And so when I looked at the Lancers, I went and saw a game, and I was amazed at the level of hockey. I had no idea that it was like a significant step up from junior B, but it makes sense. Like you say, you're drawing guys from those OHL, like the CHL teams, and they're guys that not only can play there but did play there for 4 years, who have got that experience now on top of that skill. It's no wonder why it is such a good league.
And everyone's different, even in sports. Like you might have some guys that played a little bit in the OHL or wherever and ended up there, but there's even guys like, I remember Scott Todd played on the Lancers, and he was a stud on the Spits at his time, right? So for him to go down to that level, not down to that level, but to that level, it really speaks for it. I'm pretty sure he was like assistant or captain of the Spits and ended up coming to the Lancers. Because that's a good fit for him, right?
Definitely.
And we were also talking about the team and like the new recruitments. You also have a lot of guys that aren't really local. But we also talked about it again. You have a little bit of some previous teammates, including Nathan Stavage, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And is there anyone else that I'm missing? Or
go ahead. So I've also played with Dan Bodwin, one of my good buddies from LaSalle. Okay. Paulo Battisti as well. I played with him throughout Windsor AAA years, and played against Chris Scott. He played for Leamington. Jack Van Bokel was with LaSalle last year. So some guys that you get to know pretty well over the years, and then lo and behold, your paths cross, and you get to,
even if it's not on the same line or the same team, like you said,
you get to spend so much time with these guys that you grown to really.
There's people like I said, I only played at a small level. There's people that I knew from hockey that I'd never played with, but only played against because I hated them on the ice, And then later in life, I say, like, did you play? Yeah. You remember me? Yeah, I remember you. Yeah. But like, it's like now we're cool because we had so much fun in the fight.
It's awesome. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, Chris Scott's a great example. That guy, he's an incredibly tough player to play against because he's such a hard worker, and he's strong, and he's tough. And I mean, we've had some great battles in our junior B years, and you grow a little bit of hatred. I mean, it's not
natural.
It's not human hatred. It's competitiveness. It's for the love of the game. But then you get to know that, of course, I mean, they're great guys, and you get to know them so well, and you respect them that much more for it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's funny, and then you get to being on the same team, and it's like you put it all aside, and you're like, we know that the bad chemistry is going to create even better chemistry. I love it. There's guys that, like, if I played with them, we were great. We played against each other. We battled, and it was just fun.
Yeah,
it's great.
I mean, you get to know a lot about a person from the way they play hockey.
Oh yeah.
Especially
in their head
when you play with them, but even more so when you get to play against them.
I love it. It's so fun. So you're just going back to that. Is there anyone new that maybe you didn't play with at all, or maybe a little bit that you're starting to build chemistry within the last year or so?
Like, what do you mean by chemistry?
Just actually, it could be like we're talking about, not just on the ice and off the ice, just in general. Is there anyone maybe you're clicking with that you thought maybe I wouldn't? Maybe some new guys recruited? Or?
I don't know if I'd say there was any that I came in and I wasn't too was weary of or anything that. But there are some guys that, especially John Tecci. I've been playing with him, number 20, as a defenseman.
Okay. And
we've been playing as D partners for a little bit, and we're getting to have some pretty good chemistry on the ice. He's a great guy. We get along really well together, so that's nice. And actually, he's got a few roommates that are on the team. They live together.
Okay, cool.
But it's just pretty cool.
Yeah,
they
so
get to live together, and
that's cool.
But great guys, hard workers, and just honestly great additions to the team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to my next question. We kind of talked about it throughout the whole conversation. Actually, we're talking about just the personality of a player that makes a team. I want you to talk about the locker room morale right now.
Yeah.
Just tell me what you guys having
what
fun when
like,
you show up. Are you ready to go? Are you happy to see each other? You know, what's it
definitely.
Like?
I mean, I think for a lot of us, we got busy school schedules. Some of us are working too, and you come to the rink and it's like a release. You get to come, you get to have fun with the boys, and you get to kind of just work hard and work it out, sweat it out. So it feels great to be there. I think that's what a lot of us feel coming to the rink. It's like a haven. It's like, get to the rink now. Get
on the ice.
So it's really nice in that sense. But I think you're asking a little bit about morale in the room and what it feels like. So I think lately we've been a little up and down. We've had a couple good weekends, and then last weekend wasn't the best. So I think right now we're kind of at the process, or at the point in the process where we're finding out how we work best as a team, which not really talked about a lot, but it's amazing that you can have on a hockey team 20 plus people that are all playing together for the same goal, and to have that work so fluidly and to have it work all as one and to work well together. It's amazing that it does happen, but I think this year is a great example of how it can be tough, and you can find that sometimes there's a different mix, there's a different recipe for each specific team to find exactly how you mesh together the best, and I think we're still finding that.
Yeah,
we're still finding. We had a good meeting before practice, talk about some things that we needed to talk about. In terms of identity and just things that just holding each other accountable, which sometimes it's tough to have those conversations, but they're necessary, and the impact is positive.
Yeah, like you said, man, it's hard to find 20 guys that all get together and get along. You know what I mean? So for you to be working together towards the same goal, it's amazing. But like you said, you kind of all have the same sort of situation going on with school and work and whatever it might be, so it's all kind of you guys coming together and going forward, right?
Exactly.
It's awesome. So now we'll talk about the coaching a little bit. I want to know about like the relationship between the team and the coaching staff, and like in general, the whole team versus the whole staffing, and then yourself personally, how you're clicking with the coaches, being not new but only second year. And just tell me about the relationship there.
I guess between the players and the coaches, it's one of we have a lot of fun together, but we also know when it's time to get down to business and no joking around. It's time to put your work boots on and get to work. In terms of the coaches themselves, I mean, we have great respect for them. Each in their own department. We've got a D coach, a forward coach, assistant coach, and the head coach, Kevin Hamlin. He's somebody who I think is an incredible leader, and somebody that all the boys respect very much. He's one of the most prepared coaches I've ever played for, and it shows in all of our pregame meetings and any individual talks you have with him, and even a meeting before practice we had today, which is touching on the things that needed to be, not just touching on, but addressing boldly and necessarily the things that need to be talked about. And so I'd say it's one of respect, which is the way it should be, but at the same time we have we have loads of fun together.
Yeah, that's big. You know?
That's what matters,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you come to the rink to have fun.
Yeah.
And
just like you're saying, you respect them so much, you want to make them happy and do what they want you to do, but at the same time, you want to be able to approach them and, like I said, just have fun with them.
Yeah.
You know, when you guys do these things, like go to games and whatever, sometimes the coaches are involved.
Yeah,
and sometimes just the boys, but it's cool to click with them.
And we even had the chance to go on a team bonding trip together. And what's awesome is they are great, like, personable guys too. And when by the time you get out somewhere and you go watch a hockey game together, you're not playing them, but you're going to do an activity, you're going to a restaurant, whatever it is, you see that they're human beings too. Right?
Yeah. That's the thing. Everyone is, right?
You're used to that relationship, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to have that personable, just genuine relationship with who you know are good guys too.
That's going to make the whole thing better. It's going to
helps you buy in and
exactly, and it's going to help them buy in as well and know that you are buying in. And
get to know each other too.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You know how to coach
benefits
and
it
stuff.
can have.
It's awesome, man. It's huge, and like you're talking about the meetings and stuff. Those little events and like going out, you don't realize how vital they are until you actually do it. And then sometimes during that moment or after, you think like, wow, I'm so glad that I went. You know what I mean? Sometimes when we would have like the parties and stuff after, you're like, I just want to go home. But then after, you're like, I'm so glad that I stayed, so glad that I went.
Definitely.
It's so big. But yeah, so when I was setting this up, trying to get some questions for you, I looked up your name, and the first thing that came up was the EPICentre.
Yeah.
So I want you to just tell me about that organization and what your involvement is over there.
Yeah, definitely. EPICentre's a great, I'm not sure if you call it organization or what it would be called, but is it an organization?
I don't know, but whatever you might want to call it. I just put it down there.
It's an organization that works very closely with the University of Windsor. They're affiliated. And what they do is they offer entrepreneurial resources to students. Yeah. So last summer, for example, I had the opportunity to work at the EPICentre at a program they had called the EPIC Founders Program, which is basically students, either current students or graduated within the last 2 years, something like that. So it's a resource for students where they pay you full-time for 3 months to work at the EPICentre and develop a business idea.
Oh, okay, I see.
So coming from, I was in environmental engineering at the time, I had an idea for something I was working on for sustainable agriculture. And so by having that idea and thinking about it and by pitching it, they were able to provide for 12 students like myself full-time work for 3 weeks, where a lot of it is like you get to work on your own on developing your idea. Honestly, it was an incredible experience, and not only do they provide you that space and the resources, but they give you they provide for you classes on business models, on the law side of it, on marketing and all things like that. So great resources for students that are looking to that maybe are interested in entrepreneurialism, or they have an idea that they think could have some merit in it and could take it.
It's that way you actually get to see it kind of come into fruition and kind of see what it's like to actually do it. You know, it's one thing to have it on paper, but to go there and actually do the work, you actually get some experience doing what you want to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a big it's a big thing for the university. But can you tell me about aquaponics technology? That's one of the things that you were
so that's
involved
what I was
in.
working on.
I have no idea what that is.
Like
so
I
I'm just
say,
gonna ask.
it's really interesting. I'd be happy to tell you about it. It's sustainable agriculture, essentially. So what it is to simplify it, it's a closed loop symbiotic system. So if you remember from chemistry class, symbiotic means that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So both parties are providing something for the other and getting something in return. So what it is you grow plants in a closed loop system that circulates the same water with fish. So you have fish in tanks, feed the fish, and the waste that they produce serves as nutrients for the plants.
I got you.
And in doing so, the plants take up the nutrients and filter the water for the fish. So pretty interesting system. It's what happens out in nature every day, everywhere.
Yep. That's like I said, just like the science experiments in school.
And so the idea is you're just creating a closed loop system. You're creating a little system that you're creating the most ideal conditions for the fish, for the plants, and it's actually incredibly resource efficient. It uses such a small percentage of water because it's always being recycled, whereas the only input is fish food, as opposed to having to provide nutrients for the plant. So a lot of really cool benefits about it, and that was an idea that I was able to work on.
That's what you brought there to the EPICentre. So this is what I want to try.
And so my idea was to build a system on campus and to provide sustainably grown fruits and veggies for the students. And so I was able to work on it and develop it and take it a long way. And I was incredibly lucky to have the opportunity to do that.
That's wicked, man. So that's is that what you're studying in school now
So,
still,
well, actually, that's what I was able to work on that for the summer. But over the course of the summer, I was doing my best to figure out exactly what it is that I want to do. And so that summer, I ended up transferring from environmental engineering to philosophy.
Okay.
So pretty big switch.
Yeah.
Pretty big switch. But it's a switch that I'm incredibly happy with, and I'm glad I did, because engineering is something that is I enjoy. And I love knowing how things work. And I love the aspect of like studying the mechanics of it, and even looking at cool things, cool systems like aquaponics and the benefits they can bring. But in the long run, I know that I want to do something that has a massive impact and is helping people. And I think personally that the way I'm going to do that, the way that I can have the biggest impact, is through communication and through ideas and through talking. That's what I'm most passionate about, is communication and sharing ideas. And so philosophy is, just, if I had to say what it's all about, it's using reasoning and critical thinking to essentially figure out the best way to think about things, whether it's animal ethics and you're looking at our treatment of animals, or whether it's ethics in general, how we treat each other, or whether it's philosophy of language. It's
kind of like a step back from ethics kind of thing, because ethics is like, what's right and wrong. So
right.
Why is what's
applying
right and
reasoning, reason to find the most reasonable way, what's going to create the best outcomes. And so it's kind of a step back from things, as opposed to looking at the science of it. In this, it's a lot of looking at reasoning and really, really thinking about it, and it's something that I'm really enjoying.
That's really cool, man. That's great if you can make a career out of that too, right? That's all the best to you, man. I don't want to take you away from that. We'll kind of get back to it.
Yeah,
we're gonna kind of wrap it up. Do you see any kind of future in hockey aside from like playing, maybe coaching, giving back in any way that might interest you?
Definitely. Yeah? So, what I want to do in the next decade or so, I want to do. I think you'll see how it relates. I want to travel the world and do what I love. And what I love is adventure sports, kayaking,
cool.
biking. And so what I want to do is be able to travel to places and do that.
Yeah.
And so one thing I think would be an awesome way to do that is playing hockey. So, for example, I'm looking into options in Europe for playing professional or semi-professional hockey, in which I could make a living and also do things that I love, explore. And,
wicked, man. I didn't want to kind of assume that you want to go pro, but talked to Sammy Banga not too long ago, if you know him, but same thing, man. He went and played at the university, and now he's playing pro. He's probably quarter of the way through his season already now. Yeah. So all the best.
It's pretty awesome that just in playing university hockey, you can set yourself up to go and have experiences like that.
That's one thing he talked about, is that it's like a leeway.
Yeah.
Being in there for 4 years, all the right connections got him to where he wanted to be. He didn't say like, I just want NHL and that's it. He said if there's always that option to go to Europe, and there's plenty of places to play pro at a great level.
Yeah, it's a great springboard. I think it's a very respected league, and there are a lot of players who have played here and then have the chance to go and to play in some pretty cool countries over there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So one little thing is, I seen you guys doing some like hockey camps and outreach events at the schools and stuff, going and just talking about bullying and whatever. Is that something that you like to do too? Is just kind of...
Without a doubt. Yeah. I jump on every opportunity we have like that. So, for example, we're working on something right now. It's called Lancers Against Bullying. Yeah. So we have an initiative where where we go in groups as teammates, and we go and make presentations at elementary schools on that topic against bullying, which is pretty awesome to be a part of something like that, because we're getting a positive message out. And what I think is cool about it is that it's not teachers telling kids what they should or shouldn't be doing and the reasons for or against it. It's people it's guys that they might look up to, somebody that they might be able to relate a little bit more to, and you might get the message through a little more. So I think there's a great potential for it to have an impact. And so
That's
we've got 3 or 4 presentations this week, and we've got a lot more up until Christmas where we're able to have this program and go to schools like that.
That's so cool. I think everyone would agree with that. Like, being in school, kind of being like, damn, we got to go to this presentation.
Yeah.
But then you see who it is.
Yeah.
If they're having
wearing
fun.
our jerseys.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You get to have fun with them, answer some questions about hockey and about bullying afterwards too. So you get to connect with them a little bit. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
it's a lot of fun.
That's great. And just to kind of bring it all together, which it is, you definitely have a bright future in what you're doing, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But it kind of relates into sports, like you said, traveling the world and just finding the resources to do it. The EPICentre and what you're doing there, it'll help people like you and athletes and students alike just to live a healthier lifestyle, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Awesome, man. That's so cool. And thank you for joining me, dude. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate it.
I think we're good. Welcome back to WinCity Sports on WePodcast. Thank you again to Nate for taking the time to come into the studio and doing that interview with me. I really appreciate him doing that, and I love having him on. So now we're going to talk about some little sports news going on in Windsor and some upcoming events for this weekend. We're going to start off with the Windsor Lancers, all sports teams. We're starting off with the men's basketball team, who picked up a huge win on the road, defeating the York Lions this weekend, 65-61. Mike Roca led with 23 points. And up next, the Lancers return home to the St. Denis Center to face the Lakers on Friday, December 1st, with tip-off at 8 p.m. The women's team also picked up a win over York this weekend with a score of 88-69. The Lancers put forth a dominating effort, pulling down 40 rebounds, while York can only secure 21 boards. The women also host the Lakers on Friday, December 1st at the St. Denis Center. Tip-off is scheduled for 6 p.m. and can be seen on OUA TV. Both teams also suffered losses prior to their wins over York on Saturday, each at the hands of Queen's University. Men's hockey is also coming off 2 losses this weekend. The Lancers head to London on Friday to take on the Western Mustangs at 7:30 p.m. The game can also be seen at OUA.tv. The women's hockey team split a pair of games on the weekend on Friday and Saturday, losing 2-1 to the Western Mustangs on Friday, and then picking up a 4-1 win, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Now the Lancers are set to host the Voyagers at South Windsor Arena this Friday. Puck drops at 7:30 p.m. Speaking of hockey, we're going to talk about our Windsor Spitfires. The Spits have a very busy weekend with 3 home games over 4 days at the WFCU Center. Thursday night, they took on the North Bay Battalion. It's probably in the past by the time the show has been released, but they'll be taking a break on Friday to prep for Hayden McCool and the Oshawa Generals on Saturday night, then doubling back on Sunday for a 2 p.m. game against the Flint Freebirds. After all that, they will meet the Rangers in Kitchener Tuesday night and head back home for the regular Thursday night games at the WFCU Center against the Erie Otters. Our Windsor Express basketball team started off their 2017-18 season 2-0 after a win on the road late last week and a win in their home opener last Saturday. They beat the Halifax Hurricanes 108-94. They took their first loss of the year the next day in a 119-97 defeat against the Niagara River Lions. They are now on a stretch of away games until returning to the court at the WFCU Center on Friday, December the 15th, taking on St. John's Edge. They then start a short 3-game home stretch at the WFCU. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about BCW. Border City Wrestling is holding Motown Showdown this Sunday, December 3rd, at the Diamondback Saloon in Belleville, Michigan. It's an early 6 p.m. start time with a stacked card, including a matchup for the Impact Global Championship, where champion Eli Drake defends his title against Johnny Impact and Alberto El Patron. Impact Wrestling cameras will be filming the event, which also features many other Impact stars, including Jimmy Jacobs and Windsor's own Maple Leaf Muscle, Petey Williams. So that's all for this week. Until next, smell you later.